Welcome friends, this is Dinesh Soni again from Indian Temples YouTube channel, and today we have a very special guest with us. We have Mr. Pranjal Wagh. Sorry. So to introduce Pranjal, he has been trekking continuously since 2006. He has special interest in forts in Maharashtra. As you know, Maharashtra has many forts, especially those associated with Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. And Pranjal has special interest in this history as well as the architectures of this fort. He is a photographer, he is a trekker, he is a YouTuber, and he has been exploring many different regions of Maharashtra as well as Karnataka and Goa. So welcome Pranjal, welcome to our channel.
Thank you, Dinesh. Thank you for inviting me to the live session of Indian Temples channel. I am a regular subscriber and a watcher of your videos, and I actually find them quite informative. So you should definitely keep that up.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the appreciative words. So the first thing to start with, Maharashtra, as you know, as I know, as many of our viewers know, has many different forts. I think around more than 300 forts. So first thing, how many of these have you explored? 50 maybe or more?
I'm not sure. I have not counted exactly.
Okay.
Probably 100 odd forts, maybe. I'm
Oh,
not sure about that.
that is very impressive. So do all these forts have temples around them?
Yes, they do have, because
Okay.
generally it is found that temples and forts go together. There are a
Okay.
lot of concepts and theories for that, but generally it is found that whenever there is a fort, it is
Okay.
because of a temple or temples inside the fort. So
Okay.
the function or the purpose of having the temple is various, but it is generally there. Yes.
Okay. And what do you think the purpose of most of these temples was? What was the purpose for these temples?
Uh, ba- First, to understand the purpose, we have to go way back in time, probably
Okay.
to the Vedic period, to understand what the concept of a fort or fortification is, and then we can come down to temples.
Okay.
So right from the nomadic days, and right from Stone Age, you can say man has always been in search of protection.
Okay.
Protection from the elements, protection from wild animals, later on protection from other people, other tribes, and so on and so forth. Later on, it evolved and went to protection from other kingdoms, okay, or invasions.
Okay.
So, right from the first fire that he lit for his safety and his warmth,
Okay.
to the buildings that we stay in today, the modern complexes, each is in one way or the other an example of a fortification, or what we call as a Durga in Marathi or Sanskrit. We use
Okay.
the word Durga to depict a fortification.
Okay.
So staying in a cave, covering the cave's mouth with a door, building a house, building walls, building roofs, graduating onwards to building a village with a fortified walls and gates for the village. That is all example of a fort. So the first depiction of forts is found in the Vedas.
Okay.
Wherein is basically destroyer of cities. So there is a reference wherein Indra had destroyed 100 cities, 100 fortified cities of a Asur
Okay.
called as Shambharasur. So
Okay.
that is why he's called Purandar. So basically that gives the evidence that forts have existed, or the concept has existed as long back as the Vedas.
Okay.
And coming back to one of the very famous philosophers and I would say economists of India, who's better known as Kautilya or Chanakya, he in his Arthashastra book actually dedicates two different sections to the science of building a city based on forts, or rather
Okay.
a fort-centric city is what we call
Okay.
it as. So everything
Okay.
that he does in that
Hmm.
that chapter or in that book is basically circled or revolves around fortification, because protection or defense is the main objective of any city. One of the main
Okay.
functions, not the objective, the main functions of a city.
Okay.
Even today in India, we have, let's say, toll booths at exit points of the entry points of the cities. They are, in a way, they are a barrier to outsiders coming to the city.
Okay.
Even
That
your
is.
complexes that we live in today has security cameras, has gates, you have your door. That is like another example of a fortification or protection. So
Okay.
evolving over the times,
Mhm.
fortifications have served humankind for innumerable number of years. And coming to temples, see, initially in India we did not have the practice of idol worship. We were typically the Vedic religion. So we used to offer offerings to gods via fire. That was one of the kind of yajnas, but that was the way we used to pray or offer things to them.
Okay.
Later on, when we came in contact with the Greeks, or let's say when Alexander came, some of his vassals were left in the northwest frontier province, probably around the area of Afghanistan and so, and they were called as Indo-Greek kings. So from them, when they started actually minting the coins, they
Mhm.
used the idols or the gods of the local populace, which was typically Indian. So you see Lakshmi, you see Krishna, you see Balaram, you see Vishnu on the coins. In
Mhm.
using the language of the locals, they had minted those coins.
Okay.
And slowly, we started adapting to the concept of a temple, wherein we used to basically build a structure devoted to a deity.
Okay.
The first evidence of a temple existence was actually found somewhere in MP, a place called as Vidisha, where one of the ambassadors of a Indo-Greek king visited the Indian king, and there he erected a Garuda Stamba in front of the Vishnu temple over there, which he mentions clearly that he has come to so and so place and he saw a Vishnu temple over there, and he liked it so much that whatever punya or the good deeds that he has done, all the benefits of those good deeds I would like to pass on to my parents. Saying this, he
Okay.
erected the Garuda Stamba or eagle pillar over there. Today, that temple is not there, but excavations have led to the discovery of plans of Garbhagriha of the temple. Okay. And
Interesting.
the actual
Interesting.
yeah, and the actual standing structure, I think you have covered in one of your videos. It is actually the Trivikram temple in Ter region of Maharashtra, which is typically
Yeah.
I think around 5th century
Fourth century.
AD, 4th century
Yeah.
AD, correct.
Fourth
So
century
that is the Trivikram Vishnu temple, which is the oldest standing temple.
in
Okay, which
Maharashtra.
means that
Right.
before that temples were there, but
Hmm.
probably built using uh, materials like wood, mud, or bricks, which are actually not stood the test of time.
Yeah.
So not non-durable materials for longer time. So what happened
Yeah.
is once a city, this is my belief, of course I can be wrong, I am no historian, this is what I
Right.
feel. So
Yes.
when a
Yes. Definitely.
city is planned uh, around forts or within the fort, people living inside the fort will need a deity to worship. Naturally, a temple comes inside the fort.
Okay. Pranjal,
Hmm?
just a moment. I'm receiving comment that you are not very audible. Let me just boost your audio from here. Okay. I hope you would be audible right now. Yeah. Continue, please.
So yeah, so basically, whenever a city is built, let's say a fortified city. So you take the example of any city, a city of Patliputra, which is the capital of Mauryas. That city had huge fortifications. It typically had around 570 bastions for the
Okay.
city's uh, fortifications.
I think you are stuck, Pranjal.
As wide as 12.
Yeah. Yeah. You are live now. No
Hello.
problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was talking about how when a city is built, uh, circled or revolving around fortification or defense as the primary objective. You have people who live in the city who want to have a deity in the city which they can worship.
Okay.
So uh, basically, just a minute. You can hear me, right?
Yes. Yes. I can hear you.
Uh, So you need a deity who the people worship typically. So now when it comes to forts in Maharashtra, I am coming ahead in time. roughly 2000 years ahead in time. We have come. So when you look at forts in Maharashtra, you see typically a relation. Generally, there is a relation between the temple on the fort and the name of the fort, because
Okay.
names of the forts are many a times derived from the temples that are situated on the forts, which ideally means that the temple might have existed before the fort, and then the fortification was built around it, or vice versa
Okay.
also is true. So it
Okay.
uh, hello.
Yes, yes, we can hear you. I think there is some technical.
The
Yeah.
name,
No
no
problem. No
problem.
problem. Go
So
ahead.
the name Torna comes from the name of the goddess of the Toranjai, which is the main god devata or the fort goddess over there. You also
Okay.
find the name of Sudhagar is derived
Yeah.
from Bhorai Devi. So the original name of the mountain of Sudhagar is Gorpia, which is derived
Okay.
from Bhorai Devi.
Okay.
Coming to sea forts in Maharashtra, you have
Hmm.
the fort of Kulaba in Alibag,
Hmm.
which was the headquarters of the Angre family, basically.
Yeah.
That fort has a Mahishasur Mardini idol or a temple, small temple, which is
Okay.
who is known as Gulubai Devi. So from
Okay.
Gulubai Devi comes the name Kulaba. That is one theory.
Okay.
Every fort had a main deity or a main god, and there were I would say sub gods, or maybe you had different temples in the fort. So typically you find that places which were of strategic importance in
Hmm.
the fort, like you have the gates of the fort, you have certain areas of the fort where there were outposts. There
Yeah.
are outposts on the way to the fort. So typically you are going, let's see, you also trekked in Maharashtra, so you go to a fort, you sometimes have to come to a plateau and then you climb the fort, right?
Right.
So
Right.
typically those roads or paths on the plateau, they are
Hmm.
typically outposts wherein soldiers would guard those paths.
Yeah.
There also you find certain small temples.
Right.
Typically,
Mostly of
that
Hanuman. Mostly
correct,
Hanuman
exactly.
temples or
That is my
Ganesha
next
temples.
point.
Right. Right.
That that is exactly my next point. So typically you find either Hanuman or Ganesh or
Yeah.
both of them together at this point, at these points. So best
Okay.
examples of Hanuman temple is the fort of Tikona, wherein
Yes.
which is located near Lonavala, wherein if you climb up from the rear side, you find a 12 odd feet tall idol of Hanuman. If you
Right.
go to the fort of Dategad, or which is also known as Sundargad, near
Hmm.
Patan in Satara, you will find that Ganpati or Ganesh and Hanuman are both side by side. Both huge, around 6 to 7 feet tall idols. Both are located at the entry point.
Okay.
A similar temple is found at the base of Fort Vasota, which again
Yes.
has a temple in which the Garbhagriha has
Hmm.
both Hanuman as well as Ganesh side by side. You
Hmm.
also find, let's say, we go to Fort Alang near Igatpuri. Uh,
Hmm.
on the Ganesh Darwaza of the Alang, you find that on the doorway, horizontal strip on the doorway, you find a Ganesh idol. So
Okay.
even on Rajgarh Fort in Suvala Machi, if you just go take the exit to Suvala Machi from the Chilkhati Gurus or the armored bastion, what you find is a Ganesh idol. So typically, strategically important locations, you always find these deities, because Hanuman is typically the god of strength or the god of battle. So he is an inspiration.
Okay.
So
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. Pranjal, you talked about the material of the temples, various temples. So I wanted to know what was the material used for the temples on in forts, because you see these forts are strategically situated at very high hills or at the shore of the sea. So these are extreme weather condition. These are the places with extreme weather conditions. So what are generally the materials used, or what is the general architecture of these temples for these specific weather conditions?
Okay. So basically, in Maharashtra, there are three types of forts. Three main types, I would say. One is a sea
Okay.
fort. One is the
Hmm?
mountain forts, which are more famous, and the
Yeah.
last one is the uh, I would say Bhudurga, or the ground
Land forts. Yeah. Land
land forts.
forts.
Correct.
Right.
So if you go towards land forts like Nal Durga, or areas like Basau Kalyan Bidar, which is actually Karnataka Maharashtra border,
Yeah.
uh, or even places like Paranda, you
Yeah.
find that there are big temples over there, because they were probably built during a time when there was enough time and money to build those temples. That is why they are built using stone, and you find that they have stood the test of time.
Okay.
When you come to the mountains, actually, typically mountain forts were, I would say, rejuvenated during the reign of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj.
Yes.
At that point of time, the economic condition was, or rather, the finances were close to non-existent when uh, Swarajya as a concept was coming to force. So, temples, if any, were built in a very simple manner. Majority of the times, materials used to build temples were stone. Okay, but
Okay.
there is also one more important factor which actually led to the temples being very simple.
Hmm?
So what has happened in India is typically post the 12th, 13th century, you have seen waves after waves of Islamic invasions that have come to the country.
Right.
Slowly, what happened was that building of temples, or construction of temples, has actually stopped during those periods. So the local artisans who were
Hmm?
actually having the knowledge of building a temple. So you see, look at all the Chalukya reign temples. That
Yeah.
art was actually lost in a way,
Yes. Right.
because it is like a history of around 500 to 600 years of constant invasions, constant turmoil in the country,
Hmm.
and artisans who were building structures, they were not building temples. They were into building mosques, they were building forts, but temples, the art of building temples was actually kind of lost, I would say. So the
Okay.
temples that you notice today, let's say, may it be Padmavati Machi temple on Rajgarh, it can be Jagdishwar temple on Raigad, it can be any other temple you take. Those temples are very simple in nature.
Yes. Right.
Jagdishwar is actually bigger, but that is because it was the capital city. But they are typically small and very plain in structure. You
Yes.
won't find that typical inscription of a Hindu temple on these temples. So the architecture, actually, art was lost, which was probably revived later in the 1700s, but it was again influenced by various styles from northern India, Orissa, South India, because the artisans, they used to be brought over here to build a temple. So if you look at the Trambakeshwar temple near Nasik, that is a typical example of how different the architecture styles became later on in Maharashtra. On the
Right.
forts, if you see, the temples are quite simple.
Okay. And what about the sea forts? The forts that were close to sea. Was there
Even
any
in those cases,
Hmm?
the temples are similar to what they are on the mountain forts,
Okay.
because probably the only the king to recognize the importance of a navy was Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. After probably around 500, 600 years, an Indian king had thought of having a navy.
Yeah. In
So
fact, he was the first
correct,
king from India who had a special navy force.
correct.
Yeah.
So basically, many of the temples that we see today on the forts on the coast of Konkan were built during that time, with the exception of a
Okay.
few. Uh,
Okay.
but one more point I want to add: having a deity in a fort is
Yeah.
not only limited to India or Maharashtra per se. If you go anywhere in the world, you will always find
Yes.
that if there is a fort, typically there is a deity inside.
Right. Right. Even
So
in
the
even in
Acropolis of
forts like Vasai.
Greece,
Yeah.
correct, absolutely. So in forts like Vasai, people go together. Even in forts like Guru Janjira, you have I'm sorry, on Fort of Lohagarh, you have a mosque,
Mosque.
dargah,
Yeah.
and a temple,
Yeah.
which are together, because they had overlapping reigns. So
Right.
naturally, that style is going to be perfect.
Okay. There are few comments coming up. Uh, Most of them are wishing you best wishes. Mr. Vinayak, Siddharth, Vivek, Kedar, Suresh, Vaibhav, Sachin, Dr. Milind. They are all giving you best wishes. Uh, Tushar is saying
Thank you.
that religion, trade, and forts. These three things went together. So basically, forts were for for religion as well as for trade. Forts were for protection of both of them. Siddharth has a request. He wants to see the photographs of these temples. We have a slideshow going on the screen, so you can see few photos. Along with that, you can follow him on Instagram. Pranjal is on Instagram with the handle Son of Sahyadris. You can follow him there, and you can see many of the photographs. He is an excellent photographer. Ajay is saying that you are providing very good information.
Thank you.
So these are the comments so far. So another point, I saw temples of Harishchandragarh. So it is definitely from before the 10th century. The fort on Harishchandragarh. There are many temples, as you already mentioned, that there are cases that temple was already there and fortification was built later on. So can you guide us about a few of these temples that are like exceptional?
Hello?
Hello. Yeah. Should I repeat the question?
Oh, no, I got the question. I thought it
Okay.
was done. So,
Okay.
it's actually very difficult to find out if the temple existed before the fort. But
Okay.
if you talk about Harishchandragarh, I believe that Harishchandragarh is a very ancient fort. Typically, yeah, as you said, 10th century, if I am not wrong, around
Yeah.
10th century or even
10th
before
or
that, the fort might have been built. I think it was, what I've read, it was during the Western Chalukya period that the fort was existing.
Okay.
So the architecture of Harishchandreshwar temple on the fort, typically, no, although not exactly like a Chalukyan temple, but it is quite similar to
It's quite similar to
them.
that.
Again,
Okay.
I am no expert, but it is what I feel,
Okay.
what I have read. And if you look at the Kedareshwar temple, you must be knowing about that, right? Kedareshwar temple
Right.
on
Right.
Harishchandra.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Kedareshwar temple is a cave temple of Shiva on Harishchandra, wherein the
Okay.
Shivlinga is inside the cave, which is submerged under water, and only the
Yes.
Shivlinga is above the water.
Yes.
So if I go by that, then I feel that the fort is actually pretty much older than that, because carvings of those kinds might have been during the Satavahan period also. Again, open for debate. There is no way to determine that. But
Okay.
typically forts built in the Maharashtra. If you look at the forts which are constructed by carving out the rock, typically happened during the Satavahan or the Chalukyan period.
Yeah. Even before that, during Maurya
Correct.
period as well. Yeah.
Correct. So, whereas you come ahead in time around 16th century, 15th century, whenever forts were built, they were built out of stone by using materials to construct the steps or the walls.
Right.
Okay. So, if I just look at that evidence, I feel that Kedareshwar temple depicts that the fort Harishchandragarh might be even older than the Chalukyan period.
Okay.
But we don't know about that. So, if I talk about the architecture of Harishchandreshwar temple, then it is typically a dry masonry kind of architecture, wherein there is no mortar or cement or binding material used between the stones.
Okay.
The stones are placed on top of each other and they are locked.
Right. Typically, like it was used by Hemadri Panth. Yeah.
The architecture, there is there is no specific style called as Himadpanthi, but
Yeah.
that point sometime later.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway.
So dry masonry is typically a style which was there during, again, Chalukyan period or even earlier than that. But
Yeah.
stones are basically interlocked into each other without any binding metal between them. So that is how the temple is built. So maybe again the same, around 10th century or earlier.
Okay. You mentioned about the cave temple at Harishchandragarh, the Kedareshwar cave. So I have noticed that there are many cave temples on different forts, and as well as there are some caves that are in the vicinity of a fort. For example, we can say of the Bhaje cave or Bedse cave,
Correct.
or there are caves on the base of Rajmachi as well. So do you think there was some relation between these caves and the forts? Because Were the forts built for protection of these caves? Are there any such evidences?
See, there are two theories actually. One
Okay,
one school of thought says that caves came first and the forts came afterwards.
okay,
The school of thought says was in place then only the art flourished. That is why the caves were made. So both theories are possible. Again, experts are studying these theories, but there is no specific conclusion. It is like the chicken and the egg.
right.
Chicken and the
Which
egg
come first, we
scenario,
don't
right?
know.
We don't know which came first. But
Okay,
yeah, I am not qualified enough to tell which came first. But if you just go by the logic, you can say that yes, if I need people, or as someone pointed out, right, religion and trade, for the protection of religion and trade, forts are built.
right.
Okay, so basically, if a fort already exists in the region, it means that the region is secure. So
Okay,
typically, if you look at Naneghat area, so Naneghat has is a very important trade route dating back to Satavahanas. Okay,
okay,
so the road which goes from Kalyan Harbour via
hmm,
Naneghat to Chunar is actually protected throughout by forts.
okay,
Okay, in Kalyan you have the Durgadi Killa, which is protecting the entry point of the city or the harbour. Then you go ahead and then you come to Naneghat, you cross Naneghat, immediately you find the fort of Children. Then the entire
yes,
chain of Chundar starts. You have Hadsar Fort, Nilgiri Fort, Hanumangarh, then you come to Shivneri in Chundar, which means that throughout the trade route, both ways to and fro, you had forts
hmm,
which were protecting and guarding the route. Okay,
okay,
which
right,
means that for economic activity to flourish and to stay secure, you
hmm,
need security. Similarly, for art to flourish, or for religion to flourish, or for religion to be secure, you also need fort guarding the or so it is like today, right? If we have an army today, and if our
yeah,
borders are secure, that is when the activities inside the country can actually happen. Economic activities.
okay,
If there is
okay,
insecurity which is guarding the country, or
hmm,
internal or external security both, then you
hmm,
cannot have a flourishing economy. Correct.
okay,
So by
right, right,
same logic, you can also say that forts were built first. Then, when the kingdoms became stable, economically strong, it is then that businessmen, kings started commissioning and financing these caves. But again, as I said, this is an opinion of mine. I can be wrong
yeah,
also.
maybe, yeah. There is a comment from Siddharth. He is asking about a temple at the bottom of Ratangad Fort. Probably he's talking about Amruteshwar. I'm not sure.
Correct, correct.
So he's saying, can we do something for rebuilding or for protection of these temples? Can there be? Are there any organization working for it, or how we can do it? How we can contribute to it?
See, I think protection of whenever it comes to any historical monument, the protection has to be done in a very scientific manner.
Right.
So unfortunately today what has happened is, if you go in many villages in Maharashtra, not on top,
Mm.
also on top of some forts, people or the villagers have typically, you find a very beautiful stone temple,
Mm.
and unknowingly villagers paint over it using oil paint, so the temple is damaged. Or
Yes.
at many times you find that the I think when I was in Latur, we had visited some temples, right? So
Right. Right.
even then we saw that the temples were covered with concrete. So the
Yes.
original temple is lost, and once
Right.
you cover everything with concrete, it is irreversible damage. So you can't undo the damage. So whenever we talk about restoring the temple, it has to be done in a very scientific manner, because a temple is very, I would say, a work of art in a way. So
Yeah.
you actually, if you want to do it, then it is best to be done in with the permission, or along with archaeological departments of the state or nation,
Or
whichever
ASI.
is,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, ASI or the state archaeology.
Yes.
So especially while doing temples, if cleanup activity is required, or if you want to start the uh, puja in the temple, then I think local authorities or the archaeology department might help. But construction or structural things should not be done on your own, is what I feel, because that might end
Okay.
up damaging the temple also.
Okay. So Siddharth was just mentioning about. I assumed that he was mentioning about Amruteshwar temple. You must have already visited Amruteshwar. You have also shared a photograph that is in the
Correct.
slideshow. So Amruteshwar is a very beautiful temple and it is very easily accessible. So maybe you can you point to a few other temples that are very easily accessible for our viewers, because not everyone would be good at trekking, not everyone will be able to climb a fort that high. So are there any temples that are very easily accessible and very beautiful? Maybe you can share
Correct.
information about them along with locations.
Yes. So the first and foremost temple which comes to mind, one of my favorites is the Jagdishwar temple on Raigad.
Okay.
It is very easily accessible because Raigad has a ropeway. So basically, you can just sit in the ropeway and reach the fort. And from there, it is a short walk to Jagdishwar temple.
Right.
So Jagdishwar temple is actually worth seeing because it's actually it has actually a lot of significance. It has historical significance. It has structural significance. A lot of things are there, and also you have the samadhi of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj just outside the temple. That is one of the
Okay.
main reasons why it is so special. And Jagdishwar was uh, kind of the favorite deity of Chhatrapati Shivaji when he was on Raigad.
Yes. Right.
And it's a 14,000 square feet temple, or the area of the temple is 14,000 square feet. It has the entrance of the temple. There are two entrances to the temple
Hmm.
complex. The east one is the main entrance, and it is a replica of the Nagar Khana of Raigad. So the Nagar Khana gate, which is very famous, in you have seen it in photos. The exact
Right.
replica is made in Jagdishwar temple. The architectural style is from the Saracens. So Saracenic architecture is a different style of architecture that is replicated in the door of the Nagar Khana as well as Jagdishwar.
Yeah.
Okay, and basically inside the temple complex, you find that the walls of the or the fortification that is guarding the temple, there are places where pilgrims can stay. Uh, and typically inside the temple, you find today that there is a Hanuman idol kept just outside the Gabha of the temple, which is, I don't think it is from the temple, but when the fort was actually won by Siddhis
Hmm.
uh, through treachery, that time when the many temples were destroyed on the fort, that maybe the idol has been from one of those temples which were destroyed. Inside the
Okay.
Gabara, if you go, there is a small Shivlinga, which I feel is not the original Jagdishwar Shivlinga, because uh, the main temple on the capital city of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, you cannot expect that uh, the Shivlinga will be very small in size. It has to
Right.
be grand.
Right.
Because just to
In
give you an
fact,
example on, hmm,
sorry
yes, yes,
sorry to interrupt. In fact, there is an excavation going on right now at Raigad Fort.
correct.
A few days ago, we had found a golden bangle there, and the excavation will go on for at least 6 to 7 years. So maybe there are chances that we will find more idol. Fingers crossed. I hope we find more. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Pranjal. You were saying about the second temple.
So, temples for Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, let's say building the Tulja Bhavani temple on Pratapgarh, the stone for the idol was brought from Gandaki river in Nepal. So,
Okay.
definitely when it comes to Raigad, which is his capital,
Hmm.
okay, which he actually decided that it should be his capital because and the fort was actually built like a city, basically,
Right.
which again takes us back to Kautilya, fortified cities concept. So the fort was built like a city, and when you are building the capital city of your temple of your
Hmm.
kingdom, you will not spare any expense, and he had not spared any expense also for building the fort. So naturally, the Shivlinga would have been equally grand. Today, it is not
Yes.
found. There are many legends about it, but there is no specific proof to prove those legends. Inside the temple mandap, you will find a circular stone which actually had a tortoise on it, but it has again disappeared post 1980s, I think.
Okay.
So I have never seen it. We'll have to look at photos for that tortoise. So
Right.
that is one of the points that one of the places that you should visit. furthermore, and that is actually I think only one of the name of Shivaji Maharaj has been written in stone.
Right.
Hiroji Indulkar, the architect of the fort, mentions that this temple was built during the reign of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. It is what is mentioned in the inscription. And the other inscription that is there is very famous. It's a very small inscription, and it is actually placed on the step of the east doorway of the temple,
Yeah.
which simply reads Sevece Thai Tatpar Hiroji Indulkar. So when Hiroji Indulkar finished building the fort, Chhatrapati Shivaji asked him, "What do you want? What reward do you want?" So he had but a simple request that my name should be carved on that stone, and it be placed at the entrance of the temple, so that whenever you come to the temple, your feet will actually fall on that stone, and I will get a chance to worship you every day. Even if
Oh,
I am not there in front of you, I can just worship you. And
that's amazing.
so what actually the inscription, Jagdishwar inscription mentions that the temple of Jagdishwar will be standing till the time there is sun and moon in the sky, which is actually kind of true, because 300 years have passed, but still Shivaji Maharaj, it has seen the reign of Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj. It has seen the fort fall into the hands of Mughals. It has seen the destruction of the fort done by the Mughals. It has seen the fort coming back to Maratha hands during the Peshwa rule, the Peshwa administration, I would say, or Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj administration. It has also seen the fort being destroyed and burning during the English, I would say, attack on the fort.
Right.
And it has seen again so many years the, the of now of inspiration. It has a lot of history to it, and definitely the Samadhi of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is there.
Right. Right.
Another very easy fort to access, I would say, going north from Raigad, going ahead of Nasik, is a fort called as Muller. So
Okay.
Muller Fort, you don't need to go to the top of the fort if you want to visit temples. You can just go to the first plateau of Muller. There you will find a lot of temples. There are three main temples over there. One is the very famous Ganesh temple, which has the huge pond in front of it. It's a very different style of architecture.
Okay.
I have seen only on Muller. Then you have the Someshwar temple, which is a Shiva temple, situated inside, a little bit inside into the jungle. Uh, it is said that a leopard comes there and a Baba lives there. So, if any trekker does want to go and stay on Muller Fort, Someshwar temple actually is the place where will stay. And going behind in the jungles of the Ganesh temple, you will find a uh, temple in ruins. Actually, it is covered by vegetation and jungle. Basically, it's called as Rameshwar temple. That's also very
Okay.
beautiful temple. A lot of
Okay.
carving. So it's easily accessible. A climb of around 20
Is
or
this
30 minutes.
how far is it from Nashik? Because Nashik is an
Uh,
accessible place to all.
Probably around 2 hours drive from, if I'm not wrong, 2 to 3 hours drive from Nasik.
Okay.
I don't know the
Sure.
exact distance.
No problem. No problem. Yeah. So these are three temples that you suggested to us. Okay. There is one question regarding how can we know if a particular temple is registered with Archaeological Survey of India, or how to get permissions for the construction work, or for Samvardhan, that is.
Correct. So typically, if the fort has, see, archaeology sort of ASI has basically a mode of operation. If any monument is under their control, then they will have a board placed on site of that monument. So once the
Okay.
monument is a protected monument, correct? So once
Yeah.
if you find that board, it means that the temples or the structures inside that fort also are automatically under the Archaeological Survey of India control. So then you
Okay.
might know. Otherwise, in Mumbai, the State Archaeology Department office is situated near Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus Station in the campus of Saint George Hospital.
Okay.
So there is an old fort of Mumbai called as Fort George, which is the office of State Archaeology Department today. Anybody can just visit the office and they can inquire over there.
Okay.
If the monument is under state archaeology.
Okay. Siddharth is also asking a question. मंदिर बांधणी कोणत्या पद्धतीची आहे? He wants to know what is the structure of those temples. We already answered that sometimes before about cave temples as well as different other temples on different forts. So that is the question that is being asked again. Okay, about you mentioned about the temples. You mentioned about various architecture styles that are existing. What are the common deities that you find on these temples, on the four temples?
Uh, as in, see, basically, as we said, whenever you find temples that were built during the Maratha period, I would say during Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's reign.
Okay. There seems to be some technical problem. Pranjal.
That time the temples are very simple. Of that. Hello. Hello.
Yes, you are audible now.
Yeah. So yeah. So I was saying when it comes to temples built during the reign of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, you find that time was a very I would say financially tight time when finances were not that easily obtained, and it was a war period. So every day of the year was a kind of a battle for survival. So at that point of time, the kingdom could not afford to spend money on exploring architecture, exploring the arts or building huge temples, because there was no money. You had money for war. So typically during that time, whichever new temples were constructed, you find that they were very simple in nature. Typically 4 walls and a roof. Okay.
Right.
When Swarajya became very stable, which was during the coronation of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, that point of time you see spendings have increased. So we have, you compare any temple on, let's say, Torna Fort, which was the first fort to be captured. The Mengai temple on Torna Fort is very simple.
Right.
Vis-a-vis you come down 50 years later, Mengai temple on Torna. Okay.
Right.
Of course, comparison with you cannot compare that with the temples built during the earlier empires, because those empires were there for 300-400 years. Satavahan Empire was there for 400 years. You cannot compare that with a 50-year period, right? So, but scale of the architecture or the spending on temples increased from 1630s to 1674. Right. That is why you see the Jagdishwar temple is a grander temple. So the influence of Islamic architecture is evident even today on Jagdishwar temple. So it is actually shaped like a mosque. There is one more temple of Bhavani Mata in Bahadurgarh, which is near Pedgaon. Bahadurgarh has a lot of temples. Both
yes.
Right. The Bhavani Mata temple inside the fort actually resembles a mosque.
Okay.
Because as I said, the architecture style was lost over time.
Yes.
People forgot how to build temples, right? So they emulated the Islamic architecture.
Interesting. So again, I come back to the earlier question. Which are the common idols or common gods or deities that you find on these temples, on these forts?
So, as I said, there is a main deity of the fort, typically, which can be any deity, typically Bhavani or Durga, and her Mahishasuramardini or her various forms. So it is typically Bhavani Mata or Durga with her various names.
Okay.
Because again, Durga is a goddess who is basically.
I think there is some problem with the internet connection. It's a little unstable.
Hello?
Yes. There was some. No, go ahead.
Shankar or Mahadev, who is one of the deities. You have Hanuman on some forts. Only Hanuman temple is there. So on the fort of Harihar, although there is a Shivling available, but the standing structure on the fort is a Hanuman temple. It might have been that there were other temples earlier, but that has actually now gotten destroyed over a period of time.
Okay.
But typically, you find Ganpati, you find Hanuman, you find Devi, which is Durga, and you find various forms of Shankar. So Bhairava is there, then Shankar Shivlinga is there. So various forms of Shankar are also there. And I believe on Mahipalgarh near Kolhapur there is a Vishnu temple on the fort.
Okay.
Yes.
Vishnu temple. That is new.
That might have been a Shiv temple converted to a Vishnu temple because it seems like that, but I am not sure.
Okay. Okay. Do you also find some influence of Jains or Buddhist architecture on these temples? Did you find any Jain temple or Buddhist temple apart from cave temples?
Below the fort of Tringalwadi, basically Tringalwadi is located near Igatpuri station.
Okay.
So below the fort of Tringalwadi, there is a Jain temple complex. A very beautiful Jain temple complex is there right below the fort of Tringalwadi. During Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's reign, typically there is no, I don't think there is an influence of Buddhist architecture or Jain architecture on the temples. But if you go back to Devgiri, Yadavas of Devgiri, there you find a lot of influence of, or a lot of Jain temples also. I think a few days back, ASI actually found out a few Jain caves in the area of Devgiri fort.
Okay.
So Devgiri region, Aurangabad region itself is very rich for Hindu caves, Buddhist caves, and as well as Jain caves.
Yes. Ajanta and Ellora are some of the most famous examples of these.
Right. So, in fact, when actually Jainism started gaining prominence in that region, is when the Yadavas shifted their capital to Devgiri.
Yes.
Because again, religion, economy, and trade will go hand in hand.
Yes. In fact,
Indian economy was built around temples, right? So.
Right. Yes. We have covered that in one of the earlier videos. How temples played an important role in development of Indian economy and social development, right, as well. In fact, if you go towards Nashik side, you can find many Jain temples. Like there is one temple at the foothill of Anjaneri. There are those famous temples near Satana. I don't remember the right name right now. There is even a statue of Bahubali that has been erected there now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mangitungi,
right. So I couldn't recollect the name. Okay. Mandar has a question. He wants to know which one of these temples is the most well preserved temples. Which four temples? Out of these 4 temples, which one is the most well preserved one?
Yeah, actually very difficult to tell. So let's say Jagdishwar is well preserved, although there is some damage evident on the structure, but it is still very well preserved. Harishchandreshwar temple is much older than Jagdishwar temple, so you can't actually compare them because the time period of the existence of these temples very. But Harishchandreshwar temple at the base of Ratangad is again very well preserved. One more factor that will affect this temple is nature. So if you talk about temple situated at a height of 3,000 feet above sea level and compare it with the temple at the base of the fort, then the impact of nature on these temples and the structures will be totally different.
Yes, so yes, obviously.
It is very difficult to compare it.
Okay, if we say some of our followers or some of our viewers are saying in say Pune, or Pune is a very popular, very easily connectable place. So can you suggest some places around Pune, some excellent temples around Pune for our viewers?
Pune city itself has a excellent number of temples inside.
Yeah, right.
So there is a very beautiful temple called as Trishundeshwar Ganpati temple. The Ganpati idol inside the temple has 3 trunks.
Okay.
A Ganpati has only 1 trunk. This one has 3 trunks. It was built probably in the 17th century. So the influence of architecture is visible. The Dwarpal of the temple actually resembles English soldiers, if I am not wrong.
Okay.
It's a very different temple. That is one of the places to visit. Then you have Omkareshwar temple. I actually have not roamed much in old Pune, but I
Okay,
read about Omkareshwar. That's a good
right.
temple. Trishundeshwar is a beautiful temple. One must visit.
Okay. Uh, Also, okay, there are many viewers who are congratulating you for such an amazing information. They are saying that they are thanking you for this information. There are many comments. There are, I think, around 50 comments that are
Oh,
thanking you. Okay.
and two more spots in Pune. One is
Okay.
Pataleshwar temple. That
Yeah, the
is,
cave temple.
yeah, correct. And near Pune, you also have Bhuleshwar temple, which is again a beautiful place.
Okay. So, Pranjal, generally, what is your motive when you go for trekking? What exactly attracts you most? Is it the part of history? Is it temples? Is it those caves?
No,
Or is it just the thrill?
it is actually an evolving motive, I would say.
Okay.
Initially, history was the motive, basically uh, finding out about the historical past of the forts, reading about them and then going to the forts. Then slowly, once you start understanding what a fort is, basically a fort in Chhatrapati Shivaji's times became nothing but a center for all activity. So a fort was, or rather, he started something called as a fort-centric administration. So
Yes.
everything was done via fort. So business,
Hmm.
may it be business, may it be any religious activity, may it be employment opportunities for people. Everything happened on the fort, happened via a fort. So
Okay.
holding forts in his
Hmm.
in his kingdom was very
Hmm.
important. Losing a fort was, uh, I would say, next to death.
Okay.
It was, yeah. So basically, once you religion, everything is linked. So slowly, as you start roaming these forts, you start roaming these temples, and you read about them. You develop your knowledge base, and then you find out that everything is linked. So
Okay.
for any ruler to be successful, he has to know his history. Okay, he has to
Right.
know his geography. Because
Right.
if you don't know how to use the geography to fight battles, you are lost. You lose. Then you
Right.
need a sound knowledge about the economy, about the religion. So all of these things are very well linked, and that is
Okay.
when now when I go to forts,
Hmm.
somehow I tend to look at these aspects also, as in the location of the in the last fort, and I looked around. I the Probably the perspective of my looking was different.
Okay.
Earlier, 10 years ago, it was just a fort. Now, when I looked
Okay.
at it, I found that it was right on the exit or the mouth of the Kundalika River. Bang opposite to Korlai Fort is the Revdanda Fort, which means that it controls the traffic that goes via the Kundalika River up the river
Okay.
into Kukat.
Okay.
So, and even today, when the ships or when the boats are sailing, they are
Hmm.
right around about 50 or 100 feet away from the fortifications of the fort, which means that
Okay.
it's an excellent point for surveillance. So,
Okay.
for monitoring economic activity, for protecting the land from the sea, for repelling the enemy, everything. So then you come to understand the importance of a fort.
Okay.
That is why every aspect of fort is the motive has now changed. Only from historical wars and battles, it has now become, including battles, you have to also look at the economy, geography, religion, everything.
Okay. For our followers, for our viewers, I have a special question. They Pranjal mentioned about many temples, some Shiva temples, some Hanuman temples, some Ganpati Ganesh temples, some temples of goddesses on these different forts. But there is one specific fort that has a temple of Chhatrapati Shivaji himself. So I want the viewers to answer in the comments, and one lucky person, the first one to give correct answer, will be receiving this special prize. It's a Marathi book, Hanuman Chalisa, Artha va Anvayartha. So the first person to give correct answer will be receiving this prize. So Pranjal, you have visited many forts in Maharashtra. You have you have seen many temples, and you have as well visited forts in Telangana, forts in Karnataka, forts in Rajasthan, if I'm not wrong, forts in Gujarat, also some forts outside India as well. So,
Correct.
what difference do you see on the temples on Rajasthan forts or the temple on Karnataka forts when you compare them to temples on Maharashtra forts? What difference do you see?
Uh, See, as I said, temples. Let's come to Karnataka, for example. So temples that are found on forts or below forts in Karnataka are typically built during the Chalukyan era, so Badami Chalukyas or the Western Kalyani Chalukyas,
Right.
or even later than that, Hoysalas. Halebeedu, for example, is a Hoysala temple that
Yeah.
are built. So basically, what has happened is these empires are uh, very economically stable empires. So you have
Hmm.
the Chalukyas who are very economically stable, very rich. You have Hoysalas who are equally rich, who
Okay.
basically came after Chalukyas. But that is why they built these temples. If you come to Maharashtra also, you can find various Chalukyan era temples in Maharashtra. You can find various Yadav Kalyan temples in Maharashtra. So when these empires, when were economically very stable, they had a lot of money, the trade had flourished, the religion could flourish, then these big temples were built. But if you come to
Right.
the forts in Maharashtra, lot of these forts for ages were actually lying, I would say, neglected. Plus, people had no money to basically build the temples on these forts. Okay, so naturally, when you come to and one more thing is space constraint on top of the fort. If you have
Yeah.
a mountain fort, typically you don't have space. So
Right.
temples on top of forts are typically small in size, and
Okay.
more focus is given towards the battle readiness of the fort. So if you
Okay.
look at any fort in Maharashtra today, you will find that it is a battle hardened fort. If you so using minimum you know minimum manual minimum artificial building a impregnable fortress. Whereas if you go to a land fort, let's say a land fort in Karnataka or land fort in even Maharashtra, let's say Marathwada region, you will find that these forts were heavily fortified, and which also means that these forts were built when the empire or when the kingdom had a lot of money and time on its hand. So
Okay.
even Rajasthan, for that matter,
Hmm.
Rajasthani forts I had visited probably way back in 1996 or 97. So I
Okay.
don't remember much. I was very small at that point of
Okay.
time. But the forts, especially Kumbhalgarh, right? Kumbhalgarh is said to have the longest fortification in the country. So
Yeah.
these forts were built over a period of time. They had a lot of time on their hand to build these forts because they were typically built in a period of not during wartime, during peacetime.
Right.
So and even uh, post independence or you know I don't know if this might hurt sentiments, but basically when invasions happened in India
Hmm.
later on, even during Mughal times, many Rajput rulers used to support Mughal rulers, right? They used to
Yeah.
basically kind of marry off their daughters with Mughals to be
Right.
in the good books. So naturally,
Right.
when you are not fighting with the enemy, your fortifications will be stable. In spite of that,
Right.
a lot of temples in Rajasthan also had been destroyed during Aurangzeb's reign.
Yes.
So architecture style in Rajasthan typically is more towards the Jain architecture style. Is what I feel. But
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Because
temples are
there was heavy influence of Jainism as well as Buddhism in the area.
correct, correct. So temples are much grander
Hmm.
in Rajasthan.
Okay. Okay.
Also because the terrain is not as difficult to negotiate as in Maharashtra or the Western Ghats.
Right.
The elements are, I would say, less harsher
Extreme.
on those forts. Yeah,
Right.
here you find extremes of all
Everything.
kinds of
Extremes of
elements.
everything. Extreme weather. Extreme
Correct.
political conditions. Yeah. So regarding the question that I had asked a few minutes ago, Ninad is the first person to give the correct answer. Ninad Baltakke. Congratulations, Ninad. I'm
Congratulations, Nina.
yeah. I'm typing out my email ID here. I request you to send your address to that email ID. Yeah, here. So please send your email ID to this email. Please send your postal address to this email ID. So Pranjal, we talked about many things here. We talked about the cave temples, the fort temples. I think we have answered most of the questions that were asked in the comments. Let me just go through if we have missed anything. If there are any more questions from audience, you can ask in the comments. So for now, I don't see many questions coming in. It has been almost 1 year now. 1 hour, sorry. It has been 1 hour. We are talking, and in fact, I am gaining a lot of information from you, Pranjal. For our audience, those who don't know Pranjal, he has very keen interest in forts, specifically fort architectures, fort buildings, or fortifications of cities. He has studied in depth. So even though our topic is very limited to Indian temples, our page is limited to temples, so that's why most of my questions have been only around temples. But if you want to know more about different forts, if you want to visit those forts, Pranjal is a very amazing resource person. In fact, I have been bugging for him for over a year to write a book about his experiences, about his visits. He has promised me 1 year ago that he will be writing a book. So the whole lockdown has been over. I am still waiting for script from his side. So hopefully he will be writing soon. We have covered most of the topics, Pranjal. What would you suggest our viewers, because we have audience from all over the country, in fact audience from other countries as well. Last week we had a person from USA who was guest on our show. So there are many of your viewers who are from outside India as well. So what would you suggest them if they want to visit these temples? How should their plan be? What should their traveling plan be?
Depends on where they are coming from. But
let's say for now about our Indian viewers, those who are from different parts of India.
Okay, so basically when you are coming to Maharashtra, let's say, to visit these forts and temples, you should
I think we have lost the connection. We can't hear you.
So for identify a city which is near.
Pranjal, you may have to repeat the answer because we couldn't hear you. You may have to repeat the answer.
Or which temple you want to visit. Hello? Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are audible now. You may have to repeat the answer because we couldn't hear you.
So let's take the example of a wonderful place called as Trimbakeshwar.
Okay.
So why Trimbakeshwar? Because Trimbakeshwar has a Shiva temple, which is one of the 12 Jyotirlingas of India.
Okay.
As well as at the back of the temple, if you look from Google Map, and it has a lot of religious as well as spiritual significance. It is the origin of the river Godavari. It is said that Shiva actually, Godavari was refusing to come down to earth. So Shiva, and she hid in his jatas. So he actually banged his jatas on the rocks, and Godavari thus came to earth. Is what the story goes. So there is a Godavari temple on the Brahmagiri mountain. We have a Shiva temple on Brahmagiri mountain. On top of that, the mountain is nothing but a fort called as Trambakgarh.
Okay.
So if you actually visit that place, it is very near from Nasik. So Nasik has direct buses to Trimbakeshwar. Even from Mumbai, if you want to visit Mumbai or Dadar, Trimbakeshwar AC buses run from the state transport called as Shivshahi. It's a very it's a night journey, so it's not that tiring. And if you get down in the morning at Trimbakeshwar, a quick climb of around 1.5 to 2 hours maximum will take you to the top of the fort. So you can visit the fort, see the fort. There is a beautiful fort or a sub fort of Trimbakgarh called as Durga Bhandar, which is an amazing piece of architecture. Wherein The mountain side is you basically find you fall, and then you cross a narrow rock bridge which has exposures on both sides. So if you fall, you're gone. And then you again climb
Okay.
up 50 steps from inside the mountain, and then you come out on top of Durgabund. So it's a beautiful fort to visit. Brahmagiri is a huge mountain, not possible to explore the entire mountain one day at all. And then you can
Okay.
explore the town of Trambakeshwar, wherein you have lot number of temples. So again, coming back to my earlier point, whenever any empire becomes economically stable, you find
Mm.
that construction of temples, construction of or other religion, development of religion actually is accelerated. So town of Trambakeshwar is one of the best examples because the Trambakeshwar temple, which was earlier demolished, was built during the as in regime of Nanasaheb Peshwa. So the style of architecture is different again. That is worth
Yeah.
exploring. Plus, the town has a huge number of temples, even today, which are functioning.
Okay.
So that's a very good place to visit. Easily accessible by road. Uh, you will find a lot of places to stay also. If you want to stay in the town, there are a lot of dharamshalas available for devotees
Okay.
to stay. So you can stay also at a very cheap
Okay.
cost. And you can
Okay.
also do it. It can also be a one-day affair where you can go in the morning and come back by evening.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Okay. So, friends, this was Pranjal Wag for us. He has given us very informative session today about temples on forts of Maharashtra. He has talked about many different things. I hope you gain some knowledge from him. If you have any more questions, he is always available on his Instagram. His handle is Son of Sahyadris. I will also be sharing the link later in the comments. He is also on YouTube. You can follow his channel on YouTube. You can just search for Pranjal Wag, or you can search for Son of Sahyadris. And the link has also been mentioned in our comments. So you can join his channel from there. If you have any more questions on this topic, you can definitely get in touch with Pranjal. I am Dinesh from Indian Temples YouTube channel. We have also an Instagram page, indian.temples. We are more active on Instagram rather than YouTube. YouTube channel is just at its early stage. I am also an author of a Marathi book. I think this is a good opportunity to market my book as well. I am author of many books. One of them is Hanuman Chalisa, Artha va Anvayartha. It provides detailed information about what is written in Hanuman Chalisa, what does it mean, what are its significance. The book is in Marathi, and today we have many Marathi viewers in the list. So that's why I am marketing this books. Thank you very much for joining us today, all friends.